Hello and welcome to another Battle of the Ports. This is show number 605 and we are taking a look at Data East's 1987 arcade hit, Karnov. Released right at the beginning of the year in January, Karnov is a side-scrolling action game named after the protagonist of the game and a character appearing in other Data East games. Players control the protagonist Karnov, cleaning each stage and collecting fragments of a treasure map. In addition to fire attacks from Karnov's mouth, players can obtain magic items to use various special effects. The game uses a 3-button system. The buttons are for attack, jump and item usage. Attacks are only possible to the left and right and also while jumping. To use an item, move the joystick left or right to move the cursor at the bottom of the screen and press the item button when the item you want is flashing. You lose a life if you come into contact with an enemy or get hit by a bullet. If you lose a life, you will be sent back to a specific position depending on your progress in the stage. In this case, any items you have stocked up on will remain, but all power-ups will be lost. The game ends when you run out of lives. Karnov's full name is Jimborov Karnovsky and was modelled after Jimbo, who was the managing director at Data East at the time. According to Koichi Saito, who was an employee of Data East when Karnov's full name was revealed in the instruction manual for the Famicom version sold by Namco, he said that the managing director was furious. I guess he never put one and one together in figuring out Karnov was him. Earlier I mentioned that Karnov has appeared in many other Data East games, such as Chelnov, known as Atomic Runner in the West, Dragon Ninja, Secret Agent, Trio the Punch, Fighter's History Dynamite, known as Karnov's Revenge in the West, and a few other games. So yeah, it seems Data East has a thing for Karnov. Released on December 18th, 1987 came the first port, which was to the Famicom. Developed in-house at Data East with support from Sakata SAS, they produced a pretty good port that follows the arcade version quite closely, apart from a few different enemy placements and redesigns. The game feels smooth, controls well using the select button as the third arcade button, and even sounds just as good. The scrolling can be sluggish at times, but considering the Famicom is doing 8-way scrolling here, it can be forgiven. Unlike the arcade game, in the Famicom version, your body colour will turn blue when hit by an enemy attack, and you will lose a life if you are hit in that state rather than instantly like the arcade original. This is great as it effectively gives you a 2-hit energy bar before death. I'm playing the Famicom version here, so I should point out that there are a few differences between this and the NES version. The Famicom story, told via in-game cutscenes, tells of an ancient dragon named Alakatai and his demonic entourage, terrorizing the peaceful land of Crimea and ransacking all of its treasures. The story continues throughout as God encourages the player and doles out tips for each level. Unsurprisingly, this was cut out in accordance with Nintendo of America's religious censorship, therefore the next story is exclusively contained within the manual. The next port was to the PC from Quicksilver Software sometime in 1987. For the time, this isn't too bad as far as PC side-scrollers go. The graphics are colourful, you can have music and sound effects simultaneously, although I've switched off the sound effects as they make the music quite choppy, and the game controls reasonably well. It does run a little fast, and from experience, changing the game speed breaks the joystick controls, so it's best just to leave it. Is this better than the Famicom version? Hell no, but it is fine for what it is. In 1988, the ZX Spectrum got a port of Karnov from Software Studios. Now, I was surprised to see how well the colour was implemented into this version. Yeah, it looks pretty bad, but you got to remember the limitations of the ZX Spectrum. I also like how all the sprites are quite large, especially compared to the PC version we just saw. Sadly, the controls are a bit sluggish, but to your advantage, the enemies hardly ever attack. Those golem boulder throwing guys never throw anything. Either that, or they take forever, allowing you to kill them before they take any action. Overall, not a bad effort for the Specky. Also in 1988, Software Studios ported Karnov to the Amstrad CPC, and as to be expected, this is a 100% port of the ZX Spectrum version. Same enemy layout, same attack patterns, and same floaty controls, but now even slower. On the plus side, the colour management is better as to be expected, and the game runs in a much more friendly resolution, allowing you to see more of the stage horizontally. No, you're not watching the ZX Spectrum stop motion edition, this is indeed the Commodore 64 version, which is surprisingly another direct ZX Spectrum port, but way worse than what the Amstrad CPC got, making it even worse than the ZX Spectrum original. No effort at all was made with this port. It still has the same shitty colouring as the ZX Spectrum and same resolution, only now it runs in single figure frames per second. Truly a disaster of a port. Sorry, but there's nothing positive that can be said about this version apart from if it was emulating a ZX Spectrum, That would have been an amazing feat, but as we know, that is not possible, and this truly is an awful port. Of course, Tiger had to jump on the bandwagon with a shitty LCD version of Karnov that was actually distributed by Sega in Japan under the Sega Game Vision series. In this version, you need to jump over rocks, shoot bats out of the air, and dodge rocks being chucked by a goalman or fire-breathing dragon breath. Needless to say, it's bloody awful, with very little in the way of movement or actual gameplay. And let's take a look at all those versions of Karnov running side by side.